From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 192 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. If that doesn't answer your question, we're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview-style podcast, and this week we've got good friend of the show, Brad, on as a fourth chair to discuss all kinds of fun stuff. How we know each other. Do men share clothes, or should they? We talk a little bit about Star Wars, some of the things we're streaming, and video games, among many other hilarious topics. Make sure to hit that play button. Find us on all your favorite social channels.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
Only in the last couple of years have I come back around to yogurt. I really didn't like yogurt for a long time. I can tell the story if you want.
Yeah. We're recording, so let's just get into it.
Okay. So the yogurt story. It's really pretty simple, actually. For the longest time, I didn't like yogurt because I went to Ohio State. And when I was at Ohio State, they had your food card had so many meal swipes. It wasn't a dollar value like you have $200 to spend for the quarter. It was, each swipe would get you so many food items at one place. There was a grocery store on campus, and you could get 5 or 6 yogurts for one swipe. And when you have a dorm room with a small mini fridge, imagine what the most convenient thing to jam your fridge full of is, and the most convenient food to eat when all you need is a spoon that you reuse and never wash. So I ate boatloads of yogurt in college, and I just didn't eat it probably again. I was on campus from 2005 to 7. I probably didn't eat yogurt again until the 2020s.
Wow.
Like at all, just because I ate so much for 2 years in college.
When you were binging yogurts, did you rotate flavors or did you stick to one?
Yeah, but still, it was just like the standard. It wasn't even cheap ones. They were probably like Chobani or something that was like decent.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like bad yogurts. It was just way too much yogurt because it was so easy to I'm going to go buy 5 and a soda, drink the soda on the way back to my dorm, and throw the yogurts in my fridge for another day. And I just got so sick of yogurt.
Yet Mountain Dew stuck.
Yeah. Gallons worth. A St. Bernard would save me in the Alps with a barrel of Mountain Dew and I'd be fine.
That's an image.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our first t-shirt design. It's really weird sitting across from you.
I know.
I don't know how I feel about it. Why are we doing this?
Because if you've ever really cared about our show, you've listened to our Tangents episodes and checked out our bonus content on YouTube, and you would know that on our Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki episodes, I had my good friend Brad do those episodes with us. So Tangents episodes are where we solely focus on one topic, unlike the podcast where we're all over the place. And Brad is here in studio with us today.
Hello.
All the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'll put your address in the description in the podcast so people can send you fan mail.
Perfect.
And I'm so glad to have you. We've known how long did we figure out we've known each other? Since 2007?
Yeah, whenever we got hired at Bose.
Yeah, so 2007. So we've known each other way longer than I've known my wife. I've known Brad way longer, and not as long as Kory, and way longer than Kendall. So good mix around the room. And we just hit it off like our first day when we started working together, and we've been friends ever since.
And worked at 2 or 3 places together.
1.
3 at the same time. We've worked for 3 different companies at the same time. Not always in the same location,
I thought you meant
but
same place.
same company overall. So we've been at 3 different companies together, and we just always get along and laugh. And have a good time. So I'm so glad you're in town visiting for work, and you agreed to come on the podcast. So thanks, buddy.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm excited. Dillon and I, our employee numbers, I was like 496. He was 497.
That's true.
Like, that's how close it was. And we had to watch a Bo's introductory video. And the first impression of Dillon I had was him pecking corn. He was falling asleep during the video, and he was doing his mouth was open, and he was just nodding off and coming back up. And I was like, this guy.
I like it.
I was like, is this guy like, we just started?
Day one.
In the beginning, I don't think our dynamic was kind of switched. He would say something and everybody would laugh, and I'd be like, that's not funny. And then I would say something and everybody would laugh, and he would kind of not laugh, and he'd be in the corner, and I'm assuming he was thinking that wasn't funny. And then it got to the point of where him and I were saying the dumbest things, and we were the only ones laughing.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole thing started.
Yeah. So the thing that Kendall thought was a tick up until like a couple episodes ago, you two used to do all the time at Bo's.
Yes, true. And I want to paint a picture of that day one, because it was summer, so it was hot, and we were in a very small, warm office, and the lights were off, and there was a very boring. I love Bo's, but there was a very boring introduction video being played for us. And we're both kind of sitting off to the side, but still behind the person who had just hired us. And I was dozing off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. In that warm, small little room.
The lights were dim, too.
Lights were dim.
He had no chance.
It was the perfect storm for me to just doze right off. And there was lots of funny stories and we also bonded over
finding the exact center point of the Bo store.
Finding the exact center. We used a tape measure.
Slow day.
And it wasn't a square or a triangle. It was like a really oddly shaped. So we had to do some math.
Very weirdly shaped. Also, a fun thing after so long at the time at Bo's, they would loan you like one of their best home theater systems that you could use until you left. And the very first movie, I know me and you, Brad, and somebody else, another coworker, we're all very excited. The first movie that we all got together and played on my system was a Goofy movie. Mm-hmm. And we were all very excited about watching a Goofy movie turned up. Although it wasn't mixed in surround sound, we still enjoyed it.
Mine was Critters.
Yours was Critters.
The first Critters movie.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So lots of history, lots of funny stories. But I'm very glad you're on and that you're in town. It's been a blast.
It's good to see everybody.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, man. And I got to meet you, so we did the Amway thing together for a while, and I knew that we would hit it off when I sensed and picked up on your love of all things geek culture and gaming. And in fact, before we started recording, I was telling these guys that I was playing Minecraft until 4:30 in the morning the other night, going, I think I might be coping with something. And my seasonal affective whatever. And Brad's like, hey, I got a picture of the house I built on my phone.
Yeah, totally
on the
enabling.
iPad because it's bigger and you could take in the house. And, you can see it in its grandeur.
Hey, how you doing? You need to talk to somebody. Maybe you should.
Signs you might be coping with seasonal affective disorder.
Walking up with a hat that says enabler.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
We also kind of bonded quickly too because we've never matured past the age of 8.
Yeah,
So-
it's really great. And I laugh a lot when I hang out with you and Dillon. You guys it's clear that you have a lot of those connections and weird work stories.
And the most obvious, you both went to the same college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a
we forget
similar
that.
time.
Yeah, we forget
And you had
that.
very similar degrees, I think, too. So you'd think those would be pretty like big highlights.
Yeah.
But
Almost never crossed paths.
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
At a very small private art school.
yeah, that's crazy.
So we got Brad. He's not a guest. He's just like a fourth chair. Not that it matters. It's kind of all the same thing, but he's just hanging out with us, talking about what we're talking about today. And I want to start by asking. So shout out to a couple people who reached out last week. It's kind of a serious thing about the train crash in East Palestine. Some podcast friends and other friends had texted and reached out. And it's a very serious thing, but none of that wind is blowing your way, is it? Okay.
No.
So did you guys hear, again, very serious, we're not making light, but did you guys hear about this crazy connection to the Netflix movie White Noise?
No.
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm not going to read the entire article, but if you Google White Noise East Palestine, this article comes up about a family who was asked to participate in the film White Noise. This is with, okay, I'm blanking on his name, Kylo Ren.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. So it's kind of a comedy, like an aloof sort of comedy, but this is what happened. So this guy named Ben Ratner and his family were asked to be extras in the movie White Noise, which was going to be filmed in a lot of different locations in Ohio. They happened to live in East Palestine. So he's 37 years old. He's in this traffic jam scene, and the whole movie is about a freight train that collides with a tanker truck, triggering an explosion that fills the air with dangerous toxins.
Which is exactly what happened.
In East Palestine. So he starts describing, he's like, basically the first half of the entire movie is almost exactly what's actually happening where we live. This guy who's just an extra. So crazy story. I got to watch the movie now. And apparently there's also a documentary that came out before all of this that talks about some of this crazy stuff, and again, very serious, and they're trying to still figure out how damaging a lot of these chemicals are that were released. But thanks to everyone who reached out and had seen the news about something crazy happening in Ohio and you caring enough to text us. But yeah, so there's this movie you can watch right now on Netflix that's essentially the exact same thing.
I can't wait till Aaron Brockovich 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Excited. Can you tell me more about your love of Aaron Brockovich?
My love of Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah.
Aaron Brockovich, you're familiar with the film, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The Aaron Brockovich is now getting involved with this thing in East Palestine.
Is there something in the water in that movie?
Yeah, so the Aaron Brockovich is a true story
chemicals.
About a woman who there's a plant that for years had been destroying the water source and soil of a small town and
giving people cancer and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's what Aaron Brockovich is about. The woman, Aaron Brockovich, and now the real Aaron Brockovich, thank you, Kory, is getting involved in East Palestine.
And here I thought that was just a joke.
See, you never can tell with him.
Aaron Brockovich 2 was a joke.
Well, maybe.
But she's...
but
I mean, everybody's just scampering for news stories, aren't they?
You know what my favorite thing about this episode is? And it's
already? You have a favorite thing already?
Nobody's going to see.
Oh.
Unless they're on YouTube, in which case they'll see. Kory brought in a bag of pistachios, offered it to everybody. The other two said no. I told Kory only if he hand shells them one by one. And here we are. I've been eating pistachios.
I feel like I'm feeding a pet that's next to me. Like, here you go, buddy. Keep up the good work. Good job.
Thank you.
Job.
Did you like the Aaron Brockovich joke?
I did like it. Good job. Here's another question for you, Brad. I'm interested in your take on this.
Okay.
I found myself Marie Kondoing my closet the other day. Sherry and I have a pretty nice walk-in closet in our master.
All right, rub it in.
And I have, it's going somewhere. It's not unnecessary braggadocious context. It's relevant to the story context, man.
Sure.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I have more clothes in the closet than my wife does.
Not shoes?
And shoes.
Okay,
I have more of both of those
I know
things.
your shoes.
And she very nicely said, hey, I was wondering if, since your stuff takes up 2/3 of this closet, if maybe you'd like to go through it sometime soon and like get rid of things that don't spark joy or or don't fit anymore. And so I got rid of, I'm kind of in between sizes right now. Winter was cruel to me. And so now I'm like, I can still wear some XL stuff, but I definitely can't wear the fitted XL stuff.
Sure.
So I'm like in between. And I have like some shirts that are nice, like Kohl's brand Apartment 9 and some Old Navy, like nice button downs that you'd wear to like a casual business function. And I put those in a pile and I text my buddy Brad, different Brad, and go, hey man, I got a lot of nice shirts that I'm getting rid of if you wanted them. And then in the next text go, I realize this might be awkward. Is it awkward that I asked if you wanted my hand-me-down clothes? Which got me thinking, what are your thoughts on that? Because growing up, we had a cousin, Dillon and I, that was older than us, and his family was pretty well off. And we would get big black garbage bags full of like name brand stuff. My first pair of Air Jordans were from our cousin Zach. And so is that weird as adult men to be like, hey man, you want some of these clothes? Because we make money now and like it's different, right?
I think that's weird. The only thing about clothes that weirds me out is I do the laundry because my wife doesn't like it, doing the laundry. So folding my laundry is fine. All my clothes are like rectangles or squares.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like her clothes are like triangles and strings, and I don't know how to fold that stuff.
Yes.
Like I have to. How am I supposed to fold something in the like sixth dimension? Like how do you fold that? Like I don't understand. Like I can't remember whatever that like paradoxal shape is. That's what she wears. It looks like clothes when it's on her, but when it's on the bed, it looks like somebody shredded something, and then I'm supposed to fold the shreds somehow.
I understand completely. It was about within a year of marriage, Amy and I decided we weren't doing each other's laundry anymore.
Yeah, well, you get in trouble for putting stuff in the wrong spot.
Yeah, because like
anyway.
I had my way of doing things.
Yeah.
She had her way of doing things,
yeah.
along with her crazy shirts and blouses, dresses and stuff. That
Well, when it's sitting there in a pile, you're like, I don't recall that when you were wearing it was covering things up, but I'm looking at it on the bed. It doesn't look like it would cover anything.
yeah,
It's just like a pile of strings. Like how am I supposed to fold that? So I basically just ball it up like into a baseball shape. I'm like, you can't iron it anyway. It's strings and like a triangle, so it's not going to get wrinkled.
yeah.
That's my gripe. I'm on like, honestly, it's like whatever you like wearing. I don't think it's weird to.
Or is it different if it's family versus just a friend, right? Because like I've got an uncle even now who like occasionally will throw me some different shirts or a cool coat that he wants to get rid of. And he thinks I might like. But when it's like a friend that you've only known for a couple of years and you're like, hey, you want some of my clothes?
I think that's fine. I think giving away is fine. I would be weirded out by borrowing. Like,
Yeah.
if Brad were to call you up and be like, "Hey, man, I got this event. Can I come over and take a look at your shirts?" Like that'd be weird.
Here's a question, but can I make an observation first?
Yeah.
Only somebody from the Midwest would say Walmart dress shirts and Apartment 9 Kohl's shirts are some really nice shirts that you should
I said
give.
Old Navy. Did I say
Old Navy? No, you said
Never.
you did say Old Navy.
I did not say Walmart, sir.
Only people in the Midwest would say I've got some quote really nice
Old
Old Navy and Kohl's Apartment 9 shirts.
What makes them nice is that they have buttons.
Yes. Yeah, that they're not. There's no stains on them yet.
The buttons are nice.
So that's an observation.
There's no Dale Earnhardt graphic.
Here's my question though. Do you think quantity has anything to do with the question? So let's use Brad as an example. Maybe he's like, well, hey,
My Brad or your Brad? Which Brad?
not Brad in studio, your Brad,
Okay,
Story
my,
Brad.
My Brad.
Let's say as an example, Story Brad says, send me a quick picture. And you send him a picture of like 3 hanging like on the end of your bed or laying on the end of your bed or something. Versus you say, well, I've got about 4 garbage bags full. Do you think that the quantity of clothes, because what's happening in my mind is the more clothes that there are, the more that it implies you've been thinking about each piece for that person.
That's really funny.
Which starts to feel weird to me.
Imagine if it were just one. And I was like, I really want you to like this shirt.
Yeah. Quantity, I think
It does matter.
I think affects how normal that seems. Because I've given away clothes too. I've changed like weight over the years. So like I have some athletic, a brother-in-law, athletic stepbrother, where it's like, hey, I've got 4 or 5 pairs of like nice athletic shorts that aren't worn down, that just don't fit anymore. Nike, Under Armour. Do you guys want these? But if I had like 3 or 4 garbage bags full of stuff that I was putting together just for them, then it makes it feel like I'm going through each piece.
No,
It sounds like you're getting rid of evidence. If it's like several garbage bags, I'd start to get suspicious. There's probably a torso buried in one of them.
I would actually think quite the opposite. That garbage bag fulls just mean, hey, there's a bunch of stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
go through it.
Do you
It's
think
just-
so?
I thought
This
of
is
you
just-
less.
These are sizes that don't fit me anymore. Rummage.
Okay. I was implying that like the specific things you would take are fitted, or like these are around your size.
That's
I think
really
what would
funny.
be worse is here's the garbage bag and here's the 3 things I picked out for you.
See, this is why follow-up questions are important.
The half of the rest of it is for my other friend. I feel like it's more his skin tone.
Okay.
I love these questions and the things that would matter to each of you hearing it. So I will add, for the record, Chaps was also on that list. So I had Apartment 9, Chaps, and Old Navy. I went back and looked.
Some really high-end stuff.
Why do you have chaps, Kory?
Oh, not the clothing item, the brand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was.
All right.
The brand. The brand.
Yeah.
The brand.
Yeah, nope, the image is already in my head.
No
The
photos
image-
of me and Chaps. Hey, if you're paying
Inventory.
careful attention, you'll notice that in our YouTube thumbnail from a few weeks ago, I photoshopped Kendall's face on Kevin Costner's body from Yellowstone. So now there's going to be a photo of me with assless chaps and garbage bags of clothes.
Yeah.
with a description that just says, want some.
Want some? Hey, y'all want some? I got some real nice Old Navy shirts.
If you do, call or email
Y'all can borrow.
for a good time.
Do not contact me with unsolicited advice or offers. Oh, that's funny.
Are we at the storytelling portion?
Yeah,
I don't
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt your question.
Yeah,
I thought
no,
this is
that's
amusing.
great.
We had some plumbers over the other day, and taking a look at something. They fix it. They come downstairs to pay, and we've got a banner up for our daughter's birthday as a decoration that says "Happy Birthday," and all the letters are Encanto themed. Well, one of the plumbers, I would say, just to paint a picture, maybe a little younger than myself. His name's also Dillon, by the way, and we have the same middle name. I don't know what the odds of that are, but it happened.
Any relation?
No, not that I'm aware of. That would have been crazy, though. So he's staring at the happy birthday letters, and he says, "Is that the ocean movie?" And I said, "Oh, I think you're thinking of Moana. This is from Encanto." And he kind of nods, "Oh, yeah." And he's staring at it for a second. And then and the other guys kind of talk to me about paying. And then I hear other Dillon say, I really cried at that movie, just kind of out of nowhere. And I thought, well, that was really, I mean, most people wouldn't just admit in the middle of a very casual conversation that they cried at a movie like Encanto.
Plumbers, yeah.
Yeah. And so I looked at him like, yeah, it was really good. And so I'm kind of talking to the other guy again. And then he kind of speaks up and he goes, the main character really went through a lot. He keeps bringing it up.
Wow.
And he's like dipping his toe into the pool of these emotions. Just keeps going back to Encanto. And now I'm like forced to like take it seriously at another level. And I'm like, she really did. She really did.
Yeah.
The writers would love to hear that they touched someone's heart.
Yeah, a lot of family
Just need the
trauma.
validation.
I mean, he's not wrong. I'm certainly not going to criticize the guy for bringing up his emotions that
Not
he
at
had.
all.
But I thought it was very funny that it just is very not joking, not being silly about it, just very straightforward.
Now imagine 2 days later, you're getting the mail, and out behind the bushes, he goes, I mean, we can all relate to the fact that some of us
Yeah.
feel like we don't have anything to offer, and all of our siblings are more gifted than us. And then
Just weeping behind the bush.
He just calls you up randomly. I just needed to talk to
You
someone.
know, I was thinking.
And Brad, you love the movie, right?
loved
Encanto
it.
was a big hit for you.
Actually, maybe it had the same effect it did on the plumber than it did it to me too. Because I was talking to my wife about Encanto, and she couldn't get away from me. I was following her around talking about the symbolism. It was not that they were going through, but I'm like, hey, if you look at the symbolism, I mean, like, it was all about butterflies related to the main character. And like, if you think about it, butterflies kind of have to destroy themselves to become, like, caterpillars destroy themselves to become this beautiful thing, this butterfly. And that whole family really needed to break down to rebuild itself even stronger. And Ash is like, I like the music. My wife, she's like, okay, I like the music. It was fine.
Yeah.
And I just kept going on. I was like, oh, you look at the detail in the clothing. So I guess it kind of had that
you
effect
turned
too.
this perfectly good movie into reading.
Yeah.
which is comical because, like Dillon, it could be said of you, Brad, that Ashley is the more outgoing people person one, and you're the more straight-laced.
Yeah, thank
but
God.
like below the surface is this guy who's really touched by the symbolism of Encanto.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
It hit,
That's
me,
awesome.
it hit me in the feels. No, I love the fact that my wife's like the social lightning rod, because she can come into a room and like attract the attention, and I can fade into the shadows. Yeah. And like people will leave me alone.
It's love for Ashley, but also love for Encanto. I did cry. I cried as well. at that
Oh, yeah.
movie. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and we had other family members comment on how much the movie touched them as well. So
Yeah.
it's very, very good.
Well, this is the Encanto love episode.
Wow.
Kendall, what's going on with you, man? I feel like we talked a little over you the last episode, the last 2 episodes, or since we started.
I mean, I couldn't talk. There's that. No, so my kids have been doing Taekwondo. The boys have been doing it for a couple of years now, and they changed their payment structure. And now it's if you have 2, that's a family, and now anyone else from your family can join in for free. And so we allowed our daughter to jump back in. For those of you who already had a red flag, just at the very beginning, we gave her a choice between karate and dance, and she chose dance. She could have chose karate. She didn't. It wasn't the boys do karate and the girls do dance. It's not that, so shut up. Because
Stick
it was
that
free.
in your woke eye.
Because it was free, we let her do both for a while. And at some point, we'll make her make a decision. But any case, all 3 of them have been enjoying karate, and Amy and I have been sitting and watching them do karate, Taekwondo, for a while. We sit in the gallery and crammed up against other parents while we can barely see what they're doing. And you know what? They have an adult and teen class that meets every night, and just pick your night and go. So Amy and I decided to join Taekwondo.
Heck yeah.
I am now a trained fighter.
Interesting.
So, how old are your kids?
I'm going to screw this up. 8 and 7, or 9 and 8.
And they all know how
8
to
and
kick
7.
now?
I mean, like as good as an 8-year-old can.
I was going to say, because I have one and I might not be able to have kids anymore because he knows how to kick pretty well. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
your days are numbered, buddy.
Does he know how to chamber the leg?
Yeah, he does.
Chamber the leg.
Yeah.
So we did that. We were both nervous heading into it. My wife was a nervous wreck, especially. But I had my second thoughts. A man of my age and girth joining something like that, and it was a good and positive experience. And I still feel it feels a little juvenile to me because you're used to watching nothing but these kids do it. I had never seen the adult class before. It is a little bit more intense than the kids classes are, as one would imagine, but I didn't imagine. And so I'm still upright. And we're going to go back. And my favorite part of that whole thing is that now our kids have the experience of sitting in the gallery
Watching mom and dad.
while mom and dad are out on the mat doing our thing.
That's awesome.
So, and I got to shadow spar with the wife. So that'll be fun. Eventually we'll get pads and we'll get to actually we'll get to hit and kick each other. That'll be.
Can you please be on the brink of an argument at home and be like, let's put on the gloves and settle this?
Exactly. Get your gear.
Awesome. Brad, didn't you do martial arts?
Yeah.
For a long time.
Kempo, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the East Coast, Dennis Knackard. My dad still teaches there. I think my dad's like a sixth degree black belt.
Wow.
Yeah, that lineage goes from, so Dennis Knackard's over on the East Coast. He learned from Joe Louis, not the boxer, but the Joe Louis who trained in Okinawa, I believe, and he beat everybody on the island. They just made him a 10th degree. Like nobody could beat Joe Louis. He was that good.
Wow, we'll shout it. We'll tag the business on our post. Not that
Dennis,
they need the help.
Yeah.
Kendall, I was going to ask, you were very enthusiastic about the watch through of Karate Kid. Are you channeling any of that like energy, or are you too far removed? You're back into Sopranos. You're like, leave the gun, take the cannoli type.
I'm too far removed, and I've been watching Downton Abbey right now, so my brain's in a really weird place.
Yeah. You're just
I look at my kids very differently
anyone.
now. I ask them to do things for me all the time. I don't have servants.
Yeah.
I have kids.
You were into Cobra Kai, which is what got the kids into
Oh,
it.
that's what I was. I said Karate Kid,
Yeah.
but the reboot's called
Cobra Kai, yeah.
Yeah.
I think my getting into Cobra Kai was toward around the same time as them getting into Taekwondo. We actually purchased a trial membership kind of thing for the boys. I think it was right before the pandemic started, and then everything shut down. And then so we had to wait for everything to open back up before we actually let them go and take advantage of what we had already paid for. So that was that scenario. And now here we are, a Taekwondo family from a studio that's run by a family.
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, this feels like a great moment to pause and hear from some words from some of our friends in On Pods Media.
Hey, I'm Lauren,
And I'm John.
and we host the Beard Al Podcast, the podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al.
And a lot of other things. We're funny.
Yeah, that's basically what I told him to say. Good job with your
I
script.
listen.
Yay! But no, seriously, we try and pair a beer with a Weird Al song and talk about both things and go where the conversation takes us. It's fun, I promise. You'll like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like talking about random things as well as, fine craft beers and some wonderful craft music.
It's really cute. Sherry and Case really like to watch trilogies and film franchises together. And I don't know how I missed this. Call me a bad dad. But my son hadn't seen the prequel trilogy, Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
And I walk into the room the other day and they're halfway through episode 1. And Case is loving it.
Of course.
He's so into it. And he's learning so much about young Anakin. And like this all leading up to the movies that he's already been introduced to.
Mm-hmm.
So they watch all the way through and like get up to a couple days later. I think they watched Attack of the Clones. And then a couple days later, episode 3. And he's like, I could see him on the edge of his seat during the Anakin Obi-Wan fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't know how I missed it. It wasn't intentional. I'm not a prequel hater, but I just I thought he had already seen him or watched him with his sisters or whatever. But yeah, it added so much depth and it was so fun watching it through his eyes.
Yeah.
And then Dillon, you texted the other day something that dawned on you and I was like,
I'm an idiot. This is probably something that everyone else had figured out as soon as the sequel trilogy was either in progress or over. But one of the biggest complaints about the sequel trilogy, which does tie back to what you're talking about, the prequel trilogy, other than it being Star Wars, was like, oh, well, how did Palpatine come back? He was dead. Darth Vader killed him. And then he came back. And I just sort of there was so much to talk about with those movies because they were so widely debated and hated on quite a bit. It dawned on me that, of course, Palpatine did die and Palpatine didn't come back. He was cloning. He was already working on clones for the clone troopers as far back as the prequel films. Why wouldn't he have had clones of himself? So Darth Vader probably did kill Palpatine, and the Palpatine that's there for the sequel trilogy is an old clone or a bad version of a clone or whatever. And I had never put 2 and 2 together that it's just as likely that there were clones of Palpatine, not that he just kept coming back and dying or was lived forever, was invincible. Also, Rey as a Palpatine could have just as easily been a clone of Palpatine that, people were like, gross, how old was Palpatine by the time he got somebody pregnant to have Rey? Well, it could have just as easily been a younger clone version of Palpatine that could have done it. So it never dawned on me that this whole time people were complaining about one Palpatine, that they do kind of reference for being able to leave the Force, obviously how Qui-Gon or people come back as Force ghosts. If you could leave a body that has died and as a dark Force sort of trick, go to another, move into another host, basically.
yeah.
So it just never clicked that that's a pretty reasonable explanation, and it's not even something that was newly established for the sequels. Palpatine was dealing with, he was the one who set up the clone troopers before episode 2 was there for all of that. Why wouldn't he have been thinking about how to use cloning to his own benefit that entire time?
Palpatine was talking about cheating death to Anakin before Anakin became Vader. He said,
right,
there are
but
ways to cheat death.
we assumed that meant he would never die. I never applied that towards, I can move my Force essence to clones of myself that could be carrying out all of these things. And not even that there were like hundreds of versions of him at one time. I don't mean that. But there could have just been different versions of himself. If one died, that could have moved to another version, another clone of himself. So like his body doesn't have to live forever to do all of these things.
Imagine if you messed that up and you accidentally went into like the Jar Jar version of the clone. Like the first one you were like when you were starting to learn how it worked.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the one you went to. He's like, dang it.
And I wouldn't even have been mad at the Darth Jar Jar like plot line, but I'm just like, why did my brain assume that this was one Palpatine body the whole time? Like when cloning has been there since the very beginning.
You had a Palpapiphany.
I had a Palpapiphany.
I don't think I ever formally, I guess, put it together in those terms, but I guess I assumed in the sequels when there's all those like cylinders filled with liquid and like random body parts that he was doing some dark magic to try to like either bring himself back to life or a clone. So I kind of assumed that some of that nonsense was going on.
My point is though that yes, they showed that, which made it a lot more obvious that's what was likely happening. But that's not the first. They didn't add that for the sequel trilogy.
Throw it in last
to help
minute.
justify it. He would have known about how to get things cloned. He could have had a clone made of himself during the Clone Wars.
Sure.
By the Kaminoans that you never see.
He should have picked the one that looked like he did before he got like wrecked by like Mace Windu.
Right. And just like they have a way to speed up aging, maybe the Kaminoans had a way to slow down aging for his clone and his force has. So
But
anyways,
he came back looking like a raisin. That's what I mean. Like
well, that could have been a mutated clone.
Okay.
That could have been a clone who got hurt in another battle somewhere else. But my point is, my brain hadn't. Now, maybe somebody listening is going, actually, in Star Wars canon comic, Darth Vader, the series at, comic 1234, they established, okay, I don't know every nook and cranny of the like canon universe when you start talking about the comics and like the encyclopedia books and whatever. I'm just saying that's a perfectly reasonable explanation that wasn't shoehorned into the sequel trilogy that goes all the way back to the prequels. That's perfectly reasonable for why he didn't just come back and why it takes away, Darth Vader saving his son and turning back to it doesn't take away any of the validity of that. It doesn't. He really could have killed Palpatine. Maybe Palpatine did die when Darth Vader killed him, but there was another clone and his Force Ghost moved to it.
Well, the clone thing's not that far-fetched because back in the 90s when we didn't have the prequels or anything, we only had the original trilogy. I remember in high school is the 90s for me. Me and my friend were Star Wars obsessed and we scraped every inch of the internet, lore, book, everything we could find. Like I had the technical journals. I could tell you like the anatomy of a AT-AT walker and all this stuff. We found canon or something. I don't know what it was, but it talked about Palpatine having multiple bodies because me and my friend in high school, we were talking about that. Like we would correct our friends. Like, he's not dead. He has more bodies to go into. I don't remember where we found that information though.
More bodies
to go to like he had clones of himself. Like we were.
So forgive maybe you mentioned it, and it could just be ignorance on my part. The concept of a dark Force ghost inhabiting a different body,
right?
Is that canon, or is that something that was like the key to your epiphany?
Well, so part of what I would get lost in the discussion of the new ones is they introduce new Force skills in the new films.
Okay,
right. So things that fans were upset that like. Why are you introducing new things that we've never seen before? Well, every series introduces new things we've never seen before.
Yeah,
but
it's tough fiction writing.
The thing that like linked it back to the old ones is what you said, which is how to live forever. Well, he never describes that. Like, so all of the sudden, that could have been the plan the whole time with already knowing that cloning exists and already
so that's your idea.
That's just an idea, right?
Okay.
Which to me, as people are looking for reasonable canon explanations until Lucasfilm weighs in,
right?
Fans are looking for something that makes the sequels seem less outlandish and more reasonable. Mm-hmm. And that to me is like that's a perfectly reasonable explanation for some of the things that we see that seem outlandish in the sequels, but really, in hindsight, maybe aren't that crazy. Now Lucasfilm might come out and go, nope, that was one Palpatine the whole time.
Yeah.
And then we go,
that was kind of my thought. I think something similar to what Kory was thinking is that Palpatine is still Palpatine, but as a whole, it's like a car. You replace enough parts on a car and the VIN is invalid, right? That's kind of what I figured about Palpatine is that he's got these cloned parts.
But I struggle with the him having a separate clone body thing too, because he died a raisin, and like I said, like you see him in the sequel movies, he's a raisin again. It's like if you had all that power to make like thousands of these like Star Destroyer like planet killing machines, you couldn't at least get like a 25-year-old like good looking
little Neutrogena.
like Palpatine. It's like you had all the universe. It's like maybe it was like I kind of like the way Han Solo looked, and he's just like maybe I look like him. Like he could have just picked anything except he's like I'll come back as a raisin.
Of course, there would be something
22-year-old
shriveling about doing this Dark Force Ghost.
Right.
Sure.
I don't think a 22-year-old Taron Egerton type Sith Lord is as scary to any apprentices. Like, can you imagine him trying to look like, Clay Aiken and talking to Snoke and trying to order him around?
That's why they have yellow eyes. That makes them scary.
Yeah, apparently. So a Taron Egerton with yellow eyes all of a sudden can have Sith apprentice.
I just put together in the prequels, back to the prequels, the Camino files that were stolen from the Jedi Temple. And the Sifo DS thing, Cypher DS, and being friends with Dooku, and like I was like, oh, that's how that all started on Camino. Anyway, I fear we are so deep into the Star. We've already lost.
I take back the yellow eye thing, because if you just did that, they'd just look like they have jaundice or whatever. That
so speaking of bringing back things that are bad
and dead,
we were so excited for GoldenEye to come out on the Switch.
Yeah.
So excited. 26 years.
Yep.
And then it comes out. And has anybody tried it?
I've been playing it on the Series X, the Xbox Series X.
When it first came out on the Switch, and I'm going to explain this poorly, but fundamentally a Nintendo 64 controller looks a lot different than a Switch setup. And it's like they mapped the buttons button for button, as opposed to working backwards from how is a Switch controller laid out, and let's reconfigure the buttons so that they make the most sense for someone playing a first-person shooter. Dude, they were so bad that on the first level, when you start on the dam and you start at that big doorway and you literally just have to turn left, and there's the first guard shack with like two bad guys in it. I couldn't turn left and aim a gun. That's how jacked up the controls are in the default mode. So apparently there's this way to go into your controller settings through the Switch and one by one reconfigure your buttons to a way that gets you close but is still terrible. And I'm just so shocked. You might have intel on what the breakdown was, that Nintendo didn't go, oh, this isn't even playable.
Do you remember the controllers, the actual original controls? Because I remember them being the buttons move you on, like, I guess that would be the X-axis, and then the joystick
control
was
stick
to aim.
is your gun. Yeah.
I don't remember what it is on the Series X, but it felt normal. It just felt fine.
Oh, on the Switch it is. Sherry looked over. She's like, "You've been really looking forward to this, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And the intro starts, and I'm like, "Yeah." And so here I am. Okay, first level. Damn. Okay, here we go. And she's like, and she goes, "What are you doing?"
I can't get out of the bathroom stall in the first part.
I can't even figure, and I'm trying everything, and then it has like 1.1 was called one thing, control style, 1.2 was a different thing. Didn't matter which of those you toggle between. So I go online, people are like furious, like, please, somebody, you shouldn't have to recode your controller to be able to make this playable.
Find somebody at the studio old enough that remembers how the other N64 controller worked.
Or even it just needs to work like a first-person shooter.
Somebody,
They have Overwatch on the
somebody was
Switch.
complaining about it to me, and I haven't even, to be fair, I haven't even tried it yet, so I don't know how bad it is, but pretty much the whole internet agrees it's bad, so it's bad. And my only comment was, there's no way they spent any level of time and effort to bring it back for Switch Online for them to leave the controls bad. They're going to do a software update and fix it somehow, and I would guess it'll be a couple more weeks of this episode and it'll be fixed. I can't wait to try it, but I'm not trying it till it's fixed because I don't want to restart it and have a bad memory. In fact, there was a hilarious video of, I'm going to guess this is a dad or an uncle or something like that, standing beside a fireplace, TV up on the fireplace. You hear the music come on and he just starts going, oh, you don't even know, and there's presumably a nephew or a son or a younger neighbor who doesn't even know what he's about to get into in this first person shooter battle. And then it's like, da-da-da, and he's just going nuts. And it's so, I was excited just watching this guy get excited about playing, but I'm not even going to touch it until they fix it.
Harrison, Jordan, over at Grief Burrito. Shout out to the best gaming podcast in all of the UK. What's going on? Weigh in. Are they going to fix it? We need to know.
It, yeah.
We need to know what's happening. This is a problem.
Best gaming podcast in the whole world, by the way. Not even just the UK. Love you guys.
Oh, man. So I just had to gripe about that.
Well, it's way
I did
more
instantly download it when I saw it. I didn't even know it was out. I missed it somehow. I've been focused on Hogwarts Legacy, which is a whole other. You don't have enough time for that, but like everybody will end up buying the game instantly when I get excited. Yeah, it's so good.
I follow the Dad Gaming, and there's a lot of memes on there from guys and dads saying, well, my girlfriend or wife or whatever is taking over the PS5 and I can't play anymore. Not that it's just, a game for chicks, but it's very popular to the non-gamer because of their love of the franchise is all I'm saying.
In fact,
Harry Potter.
Hogwarts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Hogwarts. It looks like you would appreciate it. You would walk around. You would walk around just the atmosphere. You would stare at it because of the lighting and everything. During the day, looks totally different at night. It's like, I mean, I don't even think it was scripted. But if you read the books, like Peeves the Poltergeist was never in the movies, and he's like a pretty funny in the books, and he scared the crap out of me. He came out of a bathroom laughing, like just out of the wall, and I was like, oh my God, he lived his purpose. It was great. A great moment there. That's awesome. Yeah, I hear it's great. And
I was going to say, last night, Brad, we went to get some food. You were in the driveway or in the drive-through FaceTiming your wife, and I think even your wife wanted to start playing on your account. Is that true?
So
what did you tell her?
So I have things very specifically set up in the basement. So
Sure.
I changed input so she could use the Apple TV and like watch movies and stuff. I wasn't really expecting her to turn the Xbox on or know how to operate. It just gave me, I was nervous about.
Yeah. What did you tell her to do?
Santa brought our 7-year-old an Xbox Series S for Christmas. It's like the little Xbox. And I was like, also because I was like, Santa, I don't want to share. Just get him an Xbox as well.
There it is.
And also I wanted him to have his own copy of Minecraft so we could play Minecraft together.
Yeah.
Because he likes to ruin all my stuff in Minecraft.
Yeah, just don't build anywhere next to Daddy's house.
Yeah, just build over there. No, stop spawning mobs and hiding dynamite and blowing all my hard work up. And also he does that in the game. But I was like, Ashley, why don't you just get him another copy for his Xbox? Because you can put it on story mode and just have fun. You don't like when you put it on hard, you actually really have to know what you're doing to some degree when you're fighting with the wand combat and everything, which is really well thought out.
I love it.
You've already enabled me as it relates to Minecraft, but I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels like I'm just going to give you this designated area far away from my base that you can barely see. And that's where you can build.
Well, it's the same thing with Legos. There's Daddy's Legos. Those are the ones. No, Thor's hammer. Thor's hammer is going to stay Thor's hammer. Because for one, I don't know what you would do with like 100 just plain gray pieces that makes up the handle. And then you have your Legos. You can do whatever you want with those.
Yeah.
I get it.
Dillon Dillon made some upgrades to his basement, and we went over the other day. And this is a little graphic, but you were showing me the unopened,
I saw those.
the unopened Lego sets in
Yeah.
storage.
Yeah.
Which you have like so that the edge of the box that's facing you, they're all lined up on the shelves. And they're all laid in the same configuration, so you can see by theme, and then you can see the photo of the set as well as the Lego number. Every set gets its own number, and so I'm just like admiring all of his Lego sets. And then all of a sudden, his sump pump starts freaking out, like gurgling and bubbling this like wet nonsense. And then I realized it wasn't the sump pump; he was farting. But it was so sloshy and bubbly.
Why does he get you? He always gets you. Or maybe he saves them for you, and over time they just ferment.
It was like it was a problem. I said, dude, you actually need to go check yourself. I swear it was his sump pump.
He did that to you when we were in a hotel one time. And he's like, come on, Kory. Like you were like, I'm sleeping in the bathroom, in the bathtub, and Dillon's like, come on, Kory, it's just a fart. And he's like, that wasn't a fart, it was a wet cloud.
It was my own basement. Why do I?
No, you shouldn't have to feel
feel
bad.
no
It was
shame.
it was comical that here I am admiring your Lego collection, and I'm like, something's wrong with your house.
He might
And
have
then I'm
felt
like,
threatened.
something's wrong with your nether regions.
He might have felt a little threatened.
He was scent marking his Lego collection.
Exactly.
Peacocks have pretty feathers.
Before
I
you
saw how
get
you
any
were
bright ideas, brother.
I saw how you were looking at that classic castle.
Oh man,
It's good hanging out with you guys.
I did.
I miss it. I
I
love
did
being
the
in
most
studio.
recent movie that I watched in the basement, though, which is like the home theater room. I finally watched Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever.
Oh yeah.
And I'll just like couple bullet points on that one because I'm late to the party. It was really, really beautiful that they built in the first portion of the movie to let you grieve the loss of T'Challa, or the actual loss of the actor who passed away that played the character of T'Challa. Like they built in time for you to grieve that, like as a fan of the MCU, and then like so that you could feel like what's next, what's going to happen, and where are things going to go.
Here's my question, though, real quick. Do you think because I did like that movie, do you think when people were crying, they were actually like, that was like real crying? Like they were just thinking of like Chadwick Boseman? And I think it
You
was
mean
probably
the actors or
the
like
actors.
the
I
fans?
think in the movie, anytime anybody was crying, they were probably just thinking of him and really crying.
I'm sure. Like there's probably a mixture. So some of those actors might not have known him, but like that was the reason that I honestly think most of it was real. That was one of the first MCU movies to be nominated for, I think, Academy Award for Best Picture. And I don't think that was probably more Disney campaigning, and because it was the first real African-American superhero movie recently. It's not. Blade was. I get it. But like,
And the first rated R.
that was part of Blade came around when comic book movies weren't cool. This came around when they were still at peak. We saw an African-American superhero handled incredibly well in a seriously well done movie by Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman. And he just sort of like lived that character for a lot of people the way Chris Evans was Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. And so that was really a big, like, I remember coworkers doing the like Wakanda Forever, like sort of like the chess thing, like the hand signal at each other, like walking in and out of work at the time. Like it was a big deal. So I think that really was probably some legitimate tears, not only by the actors, but also probably in theaters and by fans watching it. It was really, really sweet. I love how they handled the beginning of the movie and the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Not nearly to the degree that you saw, but a little way in Spider-Man No Way Home, how they have some of those like spray paint homages to Tony Stark and after he had passed away in Endgame. And you sort of had that built-in first couple minutes along with Peter Parker to sort of lament the loss of Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers Endgame. But I think they did a much nicer job and played it up further because he actually passed, and that was certainly not planned. He was supposed to be in the second film. So awesome movie, ton of fun. I think Namor was a really, really cool introduction. I love the sort of he wasn't an Atlantis sort of Aquaman. I love that they did this sort of like Aztec Mayan version spin on the character. I thought, what a cool way to introduce a whole new culture into the MCU. Tons of fun. If you haven't watched it, it's on Disney Plus. Go check it out. And it was a really fun one to watch in the theater, between the sound effects and the soundtrack and all the underwater stuff, and just really, really cool movie.
What are you guys streaming? We'll wrap up with things that we're streaming or reading. You can talk about books. That's allowed too. What are you watching? What are you watching these days, Brad?
Last of Us. I've been liking that.
Oh, yeah.
I've been loving that. I played the games, love the games. Last of Us is good. I haven't caught up on the last episode because I've been up here in Ohio, but that and then playing Hogwarts Legacy and of course Pokemon Go like nonstop.
And
I was playing it the majority of this podcast actually. Yeah.
Last of Us. It's true.
Caught a lot of Jigglypuffs.
Yeah. Last of Us is on HBO, and that's Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, if you don't know, but based on the game The Last of Us. Staying pretty true to the game series, I'm told.
Yeah, you can't just carbon copy the game, or else you could just go watch a playthrough or like a walkthrough on YouTube,
right?
Because it's like remastered on PS5, so it looked really good. So they did it a bunch. Whatever they added in was really good and made sense, and what they had to change was pretty good.
And I heard if you're a Nick Offerman fan, I heard he had a really cool part in one of the episodes.
He has like a full episode.
Even though that's drama is not typically what you think of with Nick Offerman. I've heard his episode was very, very good.
Brad, you just highlighted something for me that I've not thought of before, and this is a perfect like from the middle sort of comment as somebody who's not super deep into all gaming, but just certain games. Games are so immersive now, and the cutscenes are so emotionally driven that to make a remake of something that pretty much has a lot of minutes worth of really great cutscenes already, you do have to do something different with it and respect it as, from whence it came and the fact that it was a game first. But yeah, you could literally just lift the cutscenes almost and make that a movie with the quality of a lot of these. I'm thinking like God of War and these big sweeping games that have
Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order would be one. Like you could literally just lift the cutscenes and make movies out of them. So you have to do something that to the gamer, because the layman wouldn't even know, right? I mean, the average person going in to watch it like a movie wouldn't know that you didn't just do that. So that's really interesting. I never really thought about that before.
I like how it can pull people in from other media that don't normally play games too. Like my mom doesn't really like games that much, but I got a text earlier. My wife was like, "Your mom wants to know if Joel dies eventually," and I'm like, "Okay, well now you want to know." I'm like, when she was like, "Oh, have you seen The Last of Us?" I'm like, "Mom, I've been playing The Last of Us for years.
Lived The Last of Us.
I've lived The Last of Us, and just so you know, it's a game." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "So tell me more about the cordyceps thing. Like, what's going?
I love it.
It's cool that it brought her in, and it's a cool idea."
You said the same thing about Pokemon Go. Like, even your dad, and we've discussed this a billion times, so you don't have to go deep, but like, your dad will just every now and then open the game while he's with you and your son and just like catch stuff for a few minutes just because it's so accessible.
Yeah, just put it down.
Yeah.
Or then you could be like me and you can get all, and this is me specifically, so I can say this, you can get all autistic about it and be like, calculate every single IV and the odds of catching something and do all the math.
Yeah.
So how do you know you've been catching Jigglypuff?
Because I was using my auto catcher, and it was a spotlight hour between 6 and 7. Yeah,
I was like, does it like a certain amount of vibrates for this type of Pokemon?
No. If there were, I would know it.
153, 154, great.
If there were, I would know it, but no,
that's funny.
It was just a spotlight hour.
Kendall, what you streaming? Still watching through
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, and you
just Downton Abbey right now. I'm a one at a time guy. I can't hop around.
Yeah,
I'll hop around until I find something and stick with it, and then I ride that wave all the way through, with the exception typically of WWE. However, I recently made a switch. Like I wanted to pick up Peacock for various reasons, and I short term all my streaming services. Like there's no one
Smart.
I can't afford to have just all the ones that I want. So dropped Hulu, where I was watching WWE for Peacock, where you can watch What I didn't know is that for Raw and SmackDown, Peacock is a month behind.
Oh no!
Which is annoying. So now
good.
I'm waiting. The bright side to Peacock is they have all of the special events, right?
Can you watch them live at least? SmackDown, like, do they have a live?
Well, I can watch those live on broadcast.
Okay, that's true.
But who does that anymore?
Nobody.
The upside to Peacock is that they have all of the what used to be pay-per-view events. So, but they have those right away, which is annoyingly tempting.
Sure.
But instead, I'm going to watch them in sequence. I'm just going to be a month behind anyone else. And I don't have anyone that I see on a regular basis and talk WWE with, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I'm not an online forum kind of person either.
We're not a wrestling podcast.
We're not a wrestling podcast.
Although we aspire to be someday. Something else I know you're watching, though.
Yeah.
Because I bundled Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN Plus. And one thing I've talked about, I did watch this past weekend, Tottenham Spurs and West Ham United, but also XFL.
XFL
launched
baby.
This past weekend.
Yeah.
I watched multiple games and had a great time.
Me too.
Those Sunday games on weekend one were really good.
The St. Louis.
So good.
Which they are the team that I decided is going to be my team.
No, you're picking too early. I can't pick yet.
Well, I looked at logos and picked.
Yeah, that can
a sword
change.
with wings. How
is that
cool,
changeable? We can change anytime, right? It's early.
Oh yeah, I mean, St. Louis I think is probably the closest geographically to us.
Yeah, St. Louis
Possibly.
then DC probably.
Yeah. But in any case, I like their logo best, and so I was rooting for them. They had a pretty dramatic come from behind situation.
Yeah, I forgot my Seattle Sea Dragons hat today. I didn't wear it since we're.
I was wondering. That's an ongoing gag for those of you that don't know. I was up in Seattle for work and got Dillon a Kraken hat, and every week the S stands for something different. So
I think the South London Merman was my favorite. Was my favorite thing that house represented. It's
pretty
hat
creative.
represented.
You still got your Paramount Plus streamer?
Oh no.
Oh, okay, I
Gave
really
that up
want
a
to
while
watch
ago.
Yellowstone.
She gone. Yeah.
I'm not streaming much past the Pez Outlaw. That's the last thing I really watched. Sherry and I, though, together are watching through the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime with John Krasinski as Jack Ryan, and it's really good. But yeah, and some stand-up specials, and then getting caught up on a lot of the podcasts I was behind on. Was that a real one or?
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you have a candle? Light?
Oh, gosh.
Distinct McDonald's smell.
How did it go through that fast?
I don't know.
It was like a half hour ago.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's a great place to end this week's episode. We are really glad to have Brad as our fourth chair, and hope you guys enjoyed catching up with us. Dillon, why don't you do the outro stuff and all the things?
Yeah.
I always do that.
Well, I am happy to do it this time. I'm sad I'm not wearing my hat, but make sure you go to artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. That is a very, very special partner of our show. Use promo code THEMIDDLE. You'll save 25% off your first order and sort of attach your purchasing to us for future purchases. You can get incredible beard, men's care, skincare, shower products. Get 25% off your first order using promo code THEMIDDLE.
I have the Restoration Beard Butter in right now.
Yep.
If you were smelling something incredible.
Go buy yourself a bunch of stuff. Send the link and the promo code to your loved ones, because before you know it, Father's Day is going to be here. That's going to roll around any time now. Go ahead and order yourself a bunch of stuff. And also, if you're looking at any of our social media channels, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, hit the dingy bell on YouTube. But our LinkTree link will take you to all of our other pages. So you can go check us out there. You can email us. You can text us. You can leave us a voicemail. Any questions that you have for us or any feedback for the show, anything you want to hear us discuss, just let us know. And we'd love to hear from you.
Brad, do you stream on Twitch?
No, I don't.
Okay. And what was the name of that karate place? Or
It was karate. It was. I think it's just Knacker Karate. Sorry,
Knacker Karate.
yeah.
Shout out to Knacker Karate. We'll see you guys next week.